Welcome to another episode of the podcast. Dr. Thomas Hemingway here. Make sure you subscribe and hit that notification bell so you never miss out.
Yeah, today we have a very special guest. It's just going to be such a fun conversation. Somebody I've been following for a long time who's got a couple of decades of experience, not only in health and wellness, but specifically in weight loss. She's worked with some people that really are household names to many of us. I think you guys will know the likes of Katie Couric and Al Roker and Jennifer Hudson. And none other than Liz Josefsburg is here today with us. And I can't wait for this conversation because we're going to talk about her journey, her book that came out that's amazing with simple steps. And I love simple. We're going to talk about this because I am the master of distilling complex data into simple steps. And I think Liz is the one that really has got this together for how we can really make that weight loss happen that many of us want to really achieve. So thank you, Liz, for being here. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. And I know that about you. I was reading a lot of your stuff, and you really are amazing at simplifying. And that was sort of my moniker, if you will, in the weight loss industry, was this like ability to distill this difficult topic into very simple steps. So I feel like I'm meeting a long lost friend here.
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much for that. And I really, just treasure this moment because you've been through this, not only yourself personally, but worked with probably thousands of clients, I'm guessing, over the years. And you've really been able to do something that many haven't been able to do. Not only do you share this amazing information, but you are a product of the product. You've not only been there, done that, the whole journey that you've been through, but you've been able to stick with it for the duration, which I think is, as many of us know, the common, outcome, unfortunately, for many people who go on diets over the years is the weight gain comes back. In fact, UCLA did a study, in fact, two that I'm familiar with, that basically said the most common thing that folks that choose to go on diets over and over again, the predictor is that they will have long-term weight gain rather than long-term weight loss. And
yes,
I'm sure you're familiar with those studies, and it's not what we want. And yet we have all of the resources nowadays with the science and everything else. Where have we gone wrong, Liz? What are we not doing right to be able to do what you did and actually keep weight off and stay healthy for the lifetime?
Thank you. It's so important that people understand that I had a lifetime of weight issues. It started as a child. When I was, 12 to 14, I was in my first diet centers, and that started a cycle, right, of me going into these programs, losing weight, coming out. And that's where I think we've gone wrong, is this education that weight loss is this finite thing, right? That there's a beginning and there's an end. You start something and you finish it. My education for people, and the thing that I want so much for people to understand is, number one, weight loss does not have to hurt. It can be fun. It can be delicious food. It can be enjoyable. You can really feel amazing while you do it. And if you can learn and process the fact that you need to pay attention to you for the rest of your life, not in a drastic weight loss, in, out, on, off, up, down sort of a process, but instead what I teach is habit formation in 6 really important pillars. So we talk habits in the food and exercise pillar, sure, but then hydration, movement, so everyday movement patterns, stress, and sleep cycle. So once we start thinking about ourselves as this holistic being, it's not just food. Most of these diet plans are extreme food regimens that no one can keep up for the long haul. So when you go into something, and I write that there's a chapter in my book that the first chapter actually talks about, kind of sets it up by this woman is going into the grocery store because she's about to start a diet tomorrow, and she's filling her cart with like quinoa and kale and all these things she hates and things she doesn't even know how to cook, things she's never heard of, but it said she's supposed to do that. And I think that is just so sad that we've gotten into a cycle of believing that's what we need to do to lose weight, is go be someone completely outside of ourselves, not address our needs, what we like to eat, how we like to move. And so I'm trying to flip that switch for people and really help you design your own weight loss program. Stop letting someone else tell you what to do. Instead, I will give you the tools that help you create your own weight loss program. And when it's yours and you wrote it, you love it. And so you don't go off of it. And so you don't gain the weight back. So
Wow.
it's sort of so simple again, right? Like, isn't it crazy that the weight loss industry, this is the thing I say to everybody, the saddest thing for me is the weight loss industry is the only product that when someone buys it and it fails, they blame themselves, right? If you bought a pair of shoes and it was ripped when it came home, the product wasn't what it said it was going to be, you would not accept that. But because the guilt and shame that have been baked into the weight loss industry is so strong that we believe that something must be wrong with us instead of maybe the plan or the program or the diet itself. So
Yeah.
you
Now,
you got me
what an
all riled
important
up,
point.
right?
Yeah. Wow. No, that's something so critical, I think, to take a step back and look at that from the 35,000-foot view, as you say, because it's, when you think about, like you said, the whole weight loss industry, and it's kind of set up to fail, right? So you can do it over and over again because it's a somewhat $40 billion in the US per year is the estimate right now, is being spent on weight loss stuff, whether it be programs, special foods, whatever it is. But they want you to be a repeat customer, right? They want that. That's not what I want for you. That's certainly not what you want.
Oh.
We want you to have a lifetime of health, right?
Yeah, and a
Yeah.
lot of times people don't even understand that most of these weight loss programs at some point were actually owned by food companies. Weight Watchers was owned by Heinz, right? Like
Oh.
it's so they'll take you on both sides, right? They'll fatten you up over
Wow.
here and they'll
Yeah.
keep you slim over here. So when you start to think about that, and then I go down to the very core of this, and I say this all the time, is I've never met somebody who didn't know that, right, the apple's a better choice than a Snickers bar. Right? They know, they have the information. It's never been about them being unknowing. And in fact, today you could Google search what's a healthier choice. You back to 20 years ago when I started this, you were dependent perhaps on a company to tell you, hey, maybe here's a list of foods that you should eat. You no longer need that. You don't need that at all. So that takes us to the core of the problem here. Is it's not knowledge, right? It's not you not being, and it's not willpower, which just makes me so
Definitely not.
upset. It's not willpower. And so if it's neither of those things, then what is it? So for me, it's really come down to helping people examine habits and behaviors, but also understanding their physiology. We are driven to eat. That is our makeup, right? So there are all of these times, and educating people around the fact that the food industry is triggering you to overeat at all times. They make more money if you eat the bigger bag of chips. If you eat 2 bags of chips, they're happy about it. So they're going to do everything, and they have hired people to examine your behaviors and how to get you to eat that second bag of chips. They study your palate and your tongue and your brain and to see how you can get lit up by that food so that it's almost impossible for you to stop eating it. So really educating people that you're not broken. You're designed to do this, right? You're designed to eat when food is presented to you. And so learning to override some of those signals, but also learning to set your environment up for success is a big piece of what we do.
Yeah, I think that point is so critical, because if you're surrounded by food, or nowadays, right, a lot of us are working from home. We have a pantry, we have a refrigerator, we have a snack drawer, we have our, all of these areas of our home that have, stashes of food that are 24/7 available to us. And like you said, if we look back, our bodies were designed to be able to operate in times of scarcity, right? In feast or famine, either one. And we had to be able to shift between the two. And most of the time it was scarcity. We didn't have food. So we had to figure out how to make do and store that, calorie as energy. And we stored it as fat. That's what our body was made to do. That's an adaptation that helped us survive. Yet now we have these food companies that take advantage of that because they know that too. The bottom line for them is the dollar. And if they can sell more stuff because they hijack your cravings, and I love how you said it's not your fault. It's not willpower. It's definitely not willpower. In fact, now we know that if you look at the signaling that comes from your gut, the microbiome, when you have an imbalance there, a dysbiosis, as we call it, you literally will have signals telling your brain what to eat because the gut bacteria, they make it so they want to survive. And if they're the unhealthy type, they want you to eat the unhealthy food because they survive. It doesn't help you, but it helps them. So you are not broken. I love that you said that. I think there's too much shame out there in the world. There's too many people feeling down and bad on themselves because they failed one diet or another diet or something else. And so let's get into those habit sort of breaking processes that you go through with your clients. How do you even approach that? Do you just ask them to describe what their behaviors are throughout the day? What's the approach that you take?
Yeah, I mean, we do a lot of at Target 100, a lot of worksheets. We do a lot of self evaluation, and then the coaching staff helps you to evaluate your patterns and routines throughout the day. So, like a good example would be, if you were in the morning, you have a pattern of hitting the snooze 2 or 3 times, right? And so that those crazy 8 or 9 minutes that you get from snooze, everybody thinks it's the bomb, right? But it's really not. It's destroying you. It's creating a stress response in the morning, and that stress response is then driving you to be late for your day. That stress, lack of preparation, maybe lack of eating breakfast, running out the door, getting to the office overly hungry, the donut cart is there, and you said, oh, I'm not going to do that again. So now you're running on stress, you are overly hungry, right? So that's not I don't know that I probably shouldn't have the donut every morning. It's really back it up and examine, oh my goodness, okay, so if I took that phone and put it across the room and had to stand up and broke that snooze pattern, got up and ate an English muffin with an egg on it, or whatever, something,
Yeah.
and then I got to work, I could easily slide by that donut because so it was always about examining your behavior patterns and your habit loops. And habit loops, that snooze rolls into, how you do the rest of your morning. So can we look at and can we begin to unravel one piece at a time and make your life much happier, honestly? We habits are this wonderful thing, right? Where we about 50% of what we do in a day is just habit. And for people to understand that when you're in a habit loop, you're not present, you're not even there, right? It's like getting out of the shower and wondering if you washed your hair, right? Because you're like, I know I was in there, but I can't remember if I washed my hair because I was so not there. That's what habits are. They help us not make too many decisions. So some of them are awesome. Like, I don't want to decide how to wash my hair every day, right? But some of them can be very destructive. And the minute you do something 2, 3, 4, 5 times, the brain wants to sort it very badly into this back portion of the brain and put it back there and say, well, okay, so every morning we're going to snooze 2 or 3 times and then we're going to rush out the door. That makes me more comfortable than this change that she's making. So I think really helping people understand that changing habits takes investigation. I always say be an investigative reporter in your own life. It's like a science project every day, and it's fun. That's I always say, like, weight loss does not have to be not fun, and it doesn't have to be not delicious. It really isn't about you being deprived of foods. It's about you saying, like, oh, what do I love and how do I get more of it, and how do I just move away from like the silly donut in the morning that I don't even care about, and save it up for something that I'd much rather like, and just have something quick in the morning that makes me have energy. So
Yeah.
it's investigating your own life, and not as as we have this deep conversation, it's so important for people to understand the industry has disempowered people. They believe they don't know what to do. They believe they're not able to do this. And I'm trying to empower people in their own lives to say, I'm absolutely capable of this. I'm absolutely able to make changes and get into the understanding that when you change a habit, there is an emotional response. The brain does not like change. So I like to people, it's sort of like if you were looking at a field of tall grass in front of you and you'd walked a path through that tall grass many, many times, you'd worn that grass down. That's the easy way to go, right? Hitting the snooze. It's much more comfortable by moving that phone and changing that morning routine. I'm asking you to like take a machete and go through this other path of grass. But if you do it enough times, the brain starts to say, oh, let's make that the new way we operate. And once you get to that place, you no longer really feel like doing the old pattern anymore. So you've got this new brain space. The old one's still there. It can pull you back, is what we call regression, which is another piece of I'm always trying to get people to stop having guilt and shame over past diet attempts. Those were all great attempts. You learned something from each one of them. You regressed, which is normal. You just didn't know it was regression. So you thought it was failure. It was simply regression. I teach people to catch their regressions as they happen and then realign over to the new behavior as soon as possible so that new path gets worn down more and more and more. So we do that in all the pillars, right? So like take any one of the pillars. Hydration is like the easiest one because it's so simple. Everyone says like, oh, I said I was going to drink more water and I never did. And I always say like, that's because it's not your habit. So to make it a habit, you've got to have like the cups on your desk. You've got to have the triggers, the alarms in your phone. You've got to have like, you've got to set that up until the brain says, oh, this is what we do. I can't come up to my office without my big mug of water. Like my brain doesn't even allow me to go up the stairs. It's like, meh, 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 get the water. Right. So now it's just how I behave. I don't have to think about it anymore. So you trigger the routine for an inherent reward. For me, that reward is feeling better, having more energy, just all the rest of the things that come with being fully hydrated.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. It could be so simple, and that's what I love about this. And we want to do these things, but we just, we have, like you said, these ingrained habits that are just the path of least resistance, right? That cut path that we've done a million times. We don't have to think about it. We're on autopilot. So in the beginning, is there something that it sounds like in the beginning, you keep it really simple. You help them basically come up with a way to break that in their own, whatever the scenario is. If it's a water thing, they need to get themselves a cup. They need to put it in a certain location. They need to put a timer on their phone and say, okay, every 15 or 20 minutes, I'm going to take a few sips of that water. Just make it, to where they can't even not do it, make it so easy that they just want to do it. And then I love how you said it can be fun. Like they can literally have like a little game with this. They can do it either by themselves or with, say, a family member. Say, hey, this week, we're going to have this water challenge. We're going to drink our 100 ounces every single day, and we're going to check it off the list, and let's see who does better at it. We'll have a little friendly competition in the family or something like that. And it can be that easy. And I love that. It's so important.
You're touching on two very important pieces of longevity and weight loss, right? Gamification and support. Those two pieces are magical. There are tons of research projects around the community that you embed yourself in, and how that support and accountability really play into your long-term success. Because as I said, we all regress. Like it's just a part. I mean, and if we see like a child learning to walk, they start walking and then they regress back and they crawl for a little while and then they go back so regression is a very normal part of everything we do. We do it in our jobs, we do it in our relationships, we do it in our eating, our exercise, whatever. The real key is to have no opinion about that. Right? To have no shame around that, no guilt. We don't yell at the baby when they start crawling again. We just say, oh, that's a part of it. They'll be back, they'll be up in a minute. That's what I really encourage, is this change in the way we talk to ourselves and think about this process. As they say, the key is to catch Oh, you know what? I've been snoozing again. I've been pressing that snooze bar. Oh, I did it 3 days in a row. It's getting real comfy again. Okay. Tonight, but okay, I'm gonna call my friend. I'm gonna tell her I'm putting the phone. She's gonna text me. We're gonna keep each other on track, right? Like get that accountability. And then gamification, making it fun. At Target 100, we're constantly doing little challenges, everything from hydration challenges to I have a sugar challenge that we're doing next week. Just helping people kind of take 7 days and really reassess their relationship with sugar after a sugary summer, right? We've got kinds of things that just keep people engaged, because the thing that thing that we were talking about is we've learned to put this in the spotlight. Weight loss gets in the spotlight, hot white spotlight for like a few weeks, and then we can't sustain it. So I'm a bigger fan of going into a place that's not white hot. Go somewhere very comfortable, that's sustainable and attainable, and stay there for a very, very long time because it's fun and it's doable and it's yielding results. Even if it's a half a pound a week, that's 26 pounds in a year, right? So that to me, learning to stay in it using gamification, support, and accountability.
Yeah, the support is so huge. And nowadays we even look at it as a whole separate factor in the determinants of health. We call it the social determinants of health. And in fact, that's been shown to be more powerful than genetics. You
Yeah.
can take two identical twins, one of them may be overweight, the other thin. And when you look at it deeper down, obviously they have the same genetic material, the same DNA, but you look at the people they spend the most time with, the 5 or 7 people, whatever study you look at. And if they are tending to be overweight and not active, they'll be more like that. Whether they're twin who has the same DNA, maybe they hang out with a different group. They do, whether it be a kickboxing class or some kind of yoga or some walk that they do as a friend group. They go for a walk a couple times a week or whatever it is, just having those sort of social support mechanisms. I really feel like in the family, it's really important if you can have some family support. I know without family support, I've seen a lot of people really struggle. But that's when we have all these other options, like with your groups that you're running and all the different, weekly challenges or whatever it is that can really get people, having that accountability. And it's fun too. I really feel like it's more fun that way, fun to do in numbers, and the social support. And now we're familiar with the hormone that's released. It's called oxytocin. It's like the anti-stress hormone. It makes us feel good. It's camaraderie. And I love what you said. It's more likely that they will continue that into the future if they have that kind of a social support and network, and they're doing it with somebody else, not just alone by themselves in their room, having that daily battle, against whatever that thing might be. So, wow, that's amazing. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
One thing I wanted to ask you about is when you look at, maybe we can even segue with that. When you're in a family, say that is not supportive, maybe it's your spouse, maybe kids or whatever, how do you address that with your client? What's your first sort of knee jerk? How do you address that?
Yeah, and it happens all the time,
Yeah.
as you said, really it's like they say, like the sum of those 5 to 7 people that you spend your time with, you actually begin to look like, right? So it is a real thing. There are several different things, that skills that I really try to help people with if they are in an environment that isn't completely supportive. I think there's some skills around boundaries that have to be set. There's skills around, that sort of verbalizing and asking for help, and being very, able to clearly state, what is good for you and what isn't. There are skills in setting up your environment, right? I have 2 teenage boys. I've lost 65 pounds. I'm keeping them off. I have 2 teenage boys. They eat pizza. They have cookies. There's ice cream. They can eat anything they want. My house, like, oh, and for me, I have to keep that stuff in a place where I don't see it. So we have a specific setup in my environment where I won't be facing those cookies every time I come into the pantry, right, to get a piece of bread, or so environmental, and saying, what, this is fine, you do you, and I'll do me, right? Getting those boundaries clear, and letting people know, it's going to be more difficult, when you don't have that support. So really, that's when I recommend getting into groups that will support you, so that you get to really lean on those people. So keeping your environment clear, being able to ask for that help, and being very, very open about what you're doing, and really then, kind of, I always say I'm only divorced from my husband in one way, right? And that is in our food life. I think there's this pervasive thought out there these days, like, I work with a lot of women, moms, and they're like, oh, we all have to sit down and eat a meal together, and we should all be eating the same thing. And I'm always like, what?
Why?
No, like, I can't eat what my kids eat, and I can't eat what my husband eats. And that's fine with me. I have plenty of things that I can eat. You don't have to eat the same things as everyone in your house. Seeing them, being around them is harder, right? So keep them out of your face as much as possible. But we're really working to understand that you are your own human, and you can't really do the same things as the other humans in your house, and you have to have the things that support you in your environment. That's the other part of environmental setup, is like, if you need, I'll make pasta for the boys, and I'll make a big thing of spaghetti squash for myself, and we use that for the week, and they scoop it, and we put a little meat sauce on there, and but just so being prepared in an environment that maybe has some challenges and lack of support. um you know it's there's lots of ways to get around that, but you have to face it head on as well.
Yeah. Now you got to recognize that it's there, and then make the modifications that work. Because I love that you said that one sort of diet or meal plan is not for everybody. I know when I was a teenager, I ate just like they did. I mean, I ate pizza whenever I wanted. I ate whatever. Ice cream was my vice. I always tell people my only vice in life is ice cream, because I just love it. I love the taste of it. And in the last decade, I've figured out how to still love it, but just not eat it very often. When I sit down and have some, I still enjoy every bite. I just
Yes.
don't have it every night like I used to, I still enjoy it though. And I love what you said at the beginning. You have to love, the experience. You can love food and have a great life and not get overweight. There's so many, like, we always look at what we take away, right? Everybody hates to have stuff taken away. We have kids, and if you take something away from them, they are furious. They go bananas. And we as adults, we're the exact same. When you start
Yes.
taking our stuff away, we revolt, right? We want more of that stuff. And so when you add all these wonderful foods, I find that travel helps me a lot, because I just get ideas. I get to taste other people's cultural foods, which usually are better than ours with respect to real food ingredients, right?
Mhm.
And it opens my mind a little bit. Oh, wow, I want to try that recipe, and I want to try that. And I think now we live in such an amazing time where there's so much more available than when we grew up, right? We had to get like a cookbook, and now we can just Google a recipe, and boom, we have like so many choices,
Yeah.
but it can be fun. I love how you keep going back to that. It's doable. It can be fun, and add rather than subtract. I mean, yes, we got to subtract some things, like you said, the cookies and the pizza. We can't be eating that stuff every day. But when you add all this other real whole foods, and even really tasty stuff, I mean, go to Italy. What do these guys eat? They eat rich food, right? The cheeses and the meats and all this kind of stuff, but they don't eat cookies, and they don't eat the kind of stuff that we eat that's made by the food companies, that's highly processed. It's full of the the evil three, I call them, right? The highly processed sugar, the highly processed grain, and then of course the seed oils. Those are the wicked triad that are designed to make us sick.
Yes, and I love that you're starting to talk about the gut, and it's we're going to look back, and we're going to be like, oh my God, that was so cruel. Like, what we did, or how we thought about this, as we get to learn more and more, right? So I teach a lot of brain science around habit formation, around guilt and shame, and how it triggers us. It triggers the reward system. So when we
Yeah,
do feel
dopamine.
badly about something that we've done, like eating a cookie, because now we're off the diet, we actually go and do more of what we didn't want to be doing in the first place. I always say, if you've ever seen a gambler who's who's losing at a table, and you're like, why won't they stop? It's this guilt and shame reward cycle that gets lit up. And I think, again, the food companies sort of know that, and they build a little bit of naughtiness and guilt and shame into the fact that you are, having this, right? So that makes you have more of it. That the brain is really brain hormones and gut health are where we're going to go from here. When we look back and go, oh, we used to cut people's stomachs in half. It's like barbaric when I think about it.
Oh my God.
I mean, I have so many folks in my groups who have eaten right through that surgery, right back at that 150 pounds that they took off is right back on them, because it had nothing to do with the size of their stomach. It had everything to do with everything else, right? Like if you just jump, and that's the other part about diets that really don't work is, and it's this sort of fantasy, right? Because I did it so many times. And I think that's why I'm so passionate about this is like, I was you, if you're listening right now, I was trapped in the cycle, in and out of so many of them. I lost 30 pounds 5 times, then 50 pounds, then 65 pounds. And I just need to free people from that space of really feeling like they don't know what to do or how to do it, and they're a failure. And just we always say we're unlearning to diet at Target 100. We're just trying to set the table in a wholly new discussion, because if we just keep having this same cycle, it's like banging your head against a wall, right? It can't be right. So readdressing this problem from a completely new lens and giving yourself the opportunity to really learn about how your body and brain work, instead of just slapping a food plan on top of yourself because some person or company told me I could lose weight doing that.
No, then that's the only way to really promote lasting change, right? That's what we want. We want something to last. We want those pounds to shed and never come back, right? We want that lasting change. And one thing that I find that helps people too is I ask them, why do they want to lose that weight? Is there something that they really want to do? Maybe it's they want to go on a trip with their kids and they want to be able to walk and not get winded, or they want to be able to pick up their grandkids, or whatever that thing that they really want. Like if you can find out what people want, they'll work for that thing, and you make the steps along the way that they design, which you so eloquently put at the very beginning. If they are designing their steps and getting the obstacles out of the way, they're going to be much more likely to be successful than if we just tell them what to do. Trust me, as a physician, I've told way too many people what to do and they don't want to do it. And I totally get it because we're resistant. That's sort of our nature. Like you keep telling us, our minds don't want to be told what to do. We want to be able to choose, right? We want to be able to choose, and you're helping them to recognize the good choices and where the habits that they've had in the past may not be so good, but they recognize it themselves. And then you help them establish new habits, which is, that's where the magic happens, I think. But
and it's a funny thing though, they've been conditioned, right? That's the other part of this is like the conditioning of like, if it isn't fast, and I always say like, if it's not sexy and fast and difficult, like it's like very hard for them to trust it. And, oh, I'm not losing 10 pounds a week. I'm not, completely miserable on top of it all. Like this must not be working, right? It's like a very funny thing to watch people kind of go like, because they've been conditioned for so long in that realm. I also think it's interesting that you say that about like being a physician and telling people, what to do. One of the most powerful research programs, I was working back at Weight Watchers, and we did a big research project that I was the sort of the moderator of the groups. And it was fascinating to learn that when we came from this place of better health, it was like the opposite of what people wanted to hear, like that, hey, we can keep you from diabetes and heart disease. And like, it was like the least attractive message was health and wellness. Like, they said that they had been inspired or motivated by doctors in the past in a moment, but once they left that office, they don't connect with the fact that they have prediabetes, because they can't feel it, right? Like it's not a motivating factor for people, which is, I just find it's very fascinating. You would think it's the opposite, that would be the
Yeah.
motivating factor, but you are actually correct. It is much more personal. The motivating factors, if you can really figure those out. You and I were talking a little bit about being in Hawaii, and like me going there with my two sons. Some mornings I don't want to get up and go to my kickboxing class either, but I think about the fact that I want to be right there next to them swimming in the ocean, and these guys are active, and I got to keep myself in really good shape to keep up with them. So get it, and when I think about it from that level. And then my husband, who's actually a coach in my business as well, and he's phenomenal, inspiring, motivating, breath work, teaching, like guru. He's like, when you switch the language from I have to I get to on anything, right? So, oh, I have to get up and not hit the snooze bar and make my breakfast. Oh no, I get to. I get to get up on time. I get to make a healthy breakfast. So I use that so often when I'm in that space of maybe feeling, the brain throws out a lot of chemicals when you're making changes. So just FYI, it's not easy. And we all have to make changes as we age. And as, like you said, you can't have the ice cream all the time. And I just kind of like encourage you as you build these habits to say, I get to, rather than I have to.
Love that. I get to. I gotta remind my kids of that. I think they're so spoiled. They're born and raised in Hawaii, and they have no idea how good they have it. And we bounce around the globe a little bit, and so they get to see some other, locations and what other people are doing and living, and they get it a little bit. But it's so interesting that taking that approach of I get to, and then also finding what is something that would be their why. Why would they want to lose the weight? Because they want to swim with their kids in Hawaii, and the ocean's rough, as you know, and you can't just go out there as a non-swimmer. Like, you can drown. I see that, unfortunately, too much. So we have to find out what they really want to do, like why they want that. For me, I'll tell you my secret. I want to surf. I want to be the first surfer that surfs until he or she is 100 years old. That's my goal. I want to not only just live to 100 and well and have my health span too, but I want to surf till I'm 100, like legit standing, riding waves like I do every day until I'm 100. I'm halfway there, but I look forward to each and every day. And my kids, like you said, having the teenagers, you got to keep up with these guys. And I want to. I want to keep up with these guys. And so
I do too. I find it to be just so fun and so motivating. That is just so inspiring to me, right? And that, when you think about that, as people are listening to this, if you connect to your why, right, and yours is very powerful, strong, you love it, you're passionate about it, it then cascades into every decision that you make, right? So you go, well, I have to feed my body well. Well, I have to lift weights. I have to treat my gut biome correctly. I need to be mentally clear and focused. So maybe I'll do some breath work or meditation. So you start to, it cascades into every area of your life, and you get around people who are supportive of that goal, because they're surfers too, and they want to surf like you. And so that's just a really nice example for people when they're thinking about their why do they do what they do, like, and I get up every day, and my why is I just want to help people get freedom from the pain and the suffering, mental, emotional, and physical. Like, it's so visceral for me. Like, and it becomes this thing of like, okay, that affects everything I do, right? Then I want to stay healthy, and I want to meet people and like you who are helping people, and I want to share my message, and I want to get up every day and try new exercise so I can inspire people. I want to try new foods. I want to continue to maintain my weight so that people understand this is doable at every age, like this doesn't have to be crazy. So it cascades, your why cascades into all the areas of your life.
Yeah. And when they're having a hard time, I remind them of that. I say, hey, remember you wanted to, next summer, you want to go on this hike with your kids, and this is why you want to do this, remember? And Like today, maybe it's just a 10-minute walk. Maybe yesterday was 20, but maybe just move for 10 minutes today. It's okay. You know, the balance of it is if you just move a little every single day, it's all going to be gravy. It's all going to work out. It's going to work for you to the positive. And it's just the little steps. And I love how you keep going back to just these small habits. I know you're probably familiar with the book BJ Fogg wrote, Tiny Habits. And I love that book because I had a couple habits that I didn't like. And when I read his book, I figured out how to change them. And it was really with small steps, like super small steps. And so if they get up and walk for 1 minute, that's a win, because maybe yesterday they walked for 0 minutes. So 1 minute is a win. And then maybe in a month or a year, they're walking for 10 or 20 minutes. And it takes time to work up to it, but it's okay.
It's
like
okay.
we're on this journey. We don't have to, get it by tomorrow. Like as long as we're moving forward, it's amazing, right? No matter how small the step.
Yeah, I love that book. I love I worked with BJ Fogg actually, and he's just such a great storyteller on top of it all. And I think that's it, is understanding, that again, like nothing's wrong with you. Your pattern is not to take that walk. Your pattern is not to take the walk. That doesn't mean you're a bad person. And if you want to change any pattern, I say this all the time, like once you learn habit formation, or almost like I call it habit manipulation of your life, right? Because you can literally achieve anything once you notice the pattern that you like to create. You create triggers in your life to make that happen, and you get as consistent as possible. You will have results. I have these stickers here on my desk, or I even have a mug that I have on my desk. My famous saying is B over T equals results. That's behavior over time. So this is my little formula. Behavior over time equals results. So it doesn't have to be a marathon, right? You don't have to run a marathon. If you said, I'm going to run for 5 minutes 4 times a week, and then make it 6 minutes, and then 7 minutes, and you find that, when I got to 25 minutes, that was a perfect threshold for me. I feel great. It helps me have more energy. That's my perfect spot. That's much more powerful than saying, I'm going to sign up for a marathon and do that. Shoving that square peg into the round hole.
Yeah, no, and I think along the way too, what I found is just celebrating those little wins, whatever they are, and no matter what they are, how small they might seem, like celebrating those. Like you did 1 minute today of walking you didn't do yesterday. Like that's awesome. Or maybe you stood up every hour at your desk and you did 30 seconds of some kind of movement. You did jumping jacks, or what I do is I put little dumbbells at the base of my desk and I just pick them up, once an hour, and I start moving them around, and it's just something, it's anything. It all counts. Guess what? It's not. I heard you say one time, I don't remember where, but you said, I don't like the A students, right? I like the B students. I want everybody to understand that a B is awesome. A B is beautiful.
That's my other sticker. Give me
yay.
I'd much rather have your B's. An A student, you can't sustain it. It's really stressful. And eventually you get an F. An A and an F give me a C, right? A C is not going to get you weight loss. A B though, which is not, you're not perfect. Perfectionism is a killer of all things. So that really helps, for those of us, like sounds like you found a balance. Like, you love ice cream. I love wine. I find out how to balance and bring that into my life so that I never give it up. But there's a threshold at which, I've learned that I can keep that in my life. And then when I go above, because it's a science project, when I go above a certain number of classes each week, I notice the scale just starts to go up by about a half a pound a week. If I keep above that, 4 to 6 classes a week, it just starts to creep because my food choices change a little bit and my sleep isn't as good and I'm drinking wine instead of water, all those little things. So this fun little science project that I'm on I found out I can have this much wine in a week, and I can then go, well, it's a random Tuesday and nothing's going on. Like, I'm not going to waste it now when I know I'm seeing my girlfriend on Saturday night and I'd like to have a couple glasses of wine with her. So I become empowered and choiceful instead of, oh, I can't have. I find out how much can I get away with in my own plan, which is then gives us this feeling of abundance rather than restriction. And it takes a little bit of management, but I always say this, like, we manage so many things in our life. I don't know where we just decided that it was painful and difficult to manage our own selves. It's like and as they say, I work with a lot of women who give themselves away in a lot of ways that really exhaust them, and they are constantly paying attention to everyone else and their needs, or they've got their kids schedules all worked out, they've got, oh, and they don't have any, they haven't taken those skills and just turned them back on themselves and said, I'm going to sit down and make a small calendar for myself this week. Where do my workouts happen? Like, when am I going to go see my yoga instructor, or whatever it is. Like, put it on the calendar for yourself, because you're doing that for everyone else. And it's really lovely when you get the habit back of saying, I matter. I have to take care of me the way I take care of my family and my job. And you get back into that space. It's really a forgotten space.
Yeah, no, the self-care thing has been forgotten for too many decades. And I think the magic of it is when you start doing that and you improve your own persona, yourself, then you can give even more. You have more to give. You have more left in the tank. Because if you're not taking care of yourself, like you said, you're always exhausted. You just don't feel like you can give any more. But then it's almost like it doesn't make sense with the law of thermodynamics, right? It's like, well, how does that happen? I'm now going to take less time to take care of my kids, and I'm going to give myself an hour a day, whatever that hour looks like, whether it be a walk. For me, it's surfing, and whatever that is. But if I give myself that, I'm a much better father when I get home. And just ask my wife, and husband. If I don't get to get my wiggles out in the water, I'm a little bit more grumpy. I'll just be honest. She reminds me of that. And so it's important. We all need that self-care. We need that time to do these things that are healthy for us, whether it be activity, whether it be with our friends, whether it be with connecting, the beauty of connection. We can't forget ourselves. And I just love how you keep reiterating that each person is so important, unique, and special, and not broken. Our bodies are not broken. They are not broken. This is amazing. Oh my gosh. Well, thank you. I don't want to take too much more of your time. Is there any other thoughts you wanted to share before we close, Liz? You've made this a tremendous. Oh my gosh. Sharing today. It's been amazing.
I've really valued our conversation, and I hope that people will really take something from this. We do programs at Target 100 where, in order, if really wanting to continue to express that, we're looking, like I said in the beginning, at 6 pillars, right? And
Yeah.
we do these programs where we send a box of devices to you that has a connected water bottle, Bluetooth connected water bottle, a connected tracker that tracks your steps, your miles, your heart rate, your sleep, and then a scale that's also connected that doesn't just read weight. It reads body fat and lean mass and bone mass. And all 3 of those devices work together on our platform, and they read out what's happening for you in those 6 pillars. And so really thinking about the fact that I have never seen 2 people have the same weight loss formula. One woman can eat 80 grams of carbs and take 7,000 steps a day and drink 80 ounces of water, where the woman sitting next to her needs to, has a threshold of closer to 100 grams of carbs a day and needs to drink 100 ounces of water and take 10,000 steps. What we do is to try to really drive home using data, because there are some amazing, devices and things out there, drive home that you are an individual. And to take it down to just a food pillar is insane. It's insane. So, and it's not just calories in or calories out. So as you go and think about, if weight loss is on your mind, this is a time of year where people get very interested in weight loss again, the fall season. Really think about these other pillars of sleep and stress and hydration and movement versus exercise, and you as a holistic person. And what that does is it frees you from this being a punitive food-based program, and everybody saying it's just all about the food, like, 80% of it is food. No, it isn't. If you're stressed out, there are hormones that get secreted that make you hungrier. So
Yeah.
you can tell me it's all about the food, but if you haven't managed your stress, you're not going to be able to manage the food, so it's not going to work. So just really keep your minds open to a more holistic process.
Yeah. And I can vouch for all the steps that you give with the food and the movement and the exercise and the hydration and the sleep and the stress. All of those things are foundational, and
Yay,
they
we're
all
doctor
play into.
approved.
If
We've been
you
doctor
are
approved.
doctor approved 100%.
Love
So
it.
everybody out there who is not part of the Target 100 yet, please jump on over to Target 100. And also, where can they easily follow you? I know
Yes.
you're all over the platforms. Liz, just with your name, right, is pretty much
Yep,
where you're
you can
located.
find me through Liz Josefsberg. Remember, it's a funky spelling. It's Josefsberg, not PH. So Liz Josefsberg. You can find us on Target 100 platforms. The target100.net is our website, but you can find us on Instagram and Facebook at Target 100. I have a phenomenal private Target 100 Facebook group that you're welcome to join, to really get that support if you want it. And we are rolling out our fall courses, start in mid-September, where you can join and be a part of our 10-week live courses. I'm there. I have coaches that are there. It's 10 weeks of instruction. You get that beautiful box of devices, and you get just an incredible education around what we've been talking about today, in all 6 pillars. So we have phenomenal success with this program, and I hope that I'll see some of your folks over there.
Yeah, I would love that. I love what you're doing. You're such an inspiration. You are indeed a product of the product, and you are just crushing it. Keep doing what you're doing. You're really just setting an amazing example for us that it is possible. We are, able to do this. It is possible. I love that, and we're not broken. And thank you so much, Liz, for being here. We'll put all those links in the show notes for the folks out there. But Target 100, I found, is the easiest way to find you. I mean, we all know.
Yeah.
That's the easiest, because I'm not a great speller. My kids can't even read my writing. They just make fun of it all day long. But Target 100, I got that.
Awesome.
You're awesome.
Well, and now
Oh my
I
gosh.
have a new why. I want to come to Kauai someday and surf with you. So I got to stay
Absolutely.
strong.
You are invited. Liz, you are
Awesome.
invited. We will go surf Hanalei Bay. It's the most beautiful, immaculate, pristine beach in the world. And there's beautiful waves to learn on, actually. It's a
Wonderful.
wonderful, magical place. All
Well,
right.
thank
Take me
you.
up on it, please.
I will.
Take me up on it.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of the podcast. Please make sure you hit the subscribe button and the notification bell so you never miss out on any future episode. And I'd love to hear your comments and feedback. If there's any topic you'd love to hear about, you're dying to know, burning questions, please comment below and let me know what future topics are of interest to you.